What's going on, DGen Nation? Back with another video. Hopping into a BBM4 draft today. This is going to be my 60th draft of the year. And picking out of the 8th spot. The draft just filled. So I feel like I've been picking towards either the end of the draft or in the top 1 or 2 recently. I have not had many 3, 4, 5, 6 in that range. And was just looking over my exposures. Player I'm very light on is Ramondre Stevenson. And I'm really dying to get some more Ramondre. But again, here I am. I'm picking out of the 8 hole. Ramondre has an ADP in the early 20s, I believe, like 26, 27. So doesn't really line up for me to get him here again, unless I wanted to reach on him in the second round, which is unfortunate. But, you kind of just gotta take what the draft gives you. If he's not available there at 32, it's tough to take him at 17 because of the value I'm passing up. This is draft 60, so I have at least 40 more drafts to go, so I can try and smooth that out going forward. So let's take a look at the board. Get the typical Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase start. Then we see Hill come off the Tyreek Hill off the board at 3, Cooper Kupp 4. Pretty standard start. I think taking Tyreek over Cooper Kupp is a mistake, in my opinion. I have Cooper Kupp number 3. Just think even before he got hurt last year, he was the wide receiver 1 in points per game. So big on Cooper Kupp for a bounce back. And I think the Rams should bounce back overall as a team. So we see McCaffrey at 5, AJ Brown 6. AJ Brown has certainly moved up the board in recent days. Diggs at 7, so I'm on the board. So you kind of deciding between Kelsey and then Lamb or Devontae. Don't like taking the running back there in the spot, so I will grab Kelsey. And we'll see what happens on the wrap back around. If this is going to be a piss boy roam, which it looks like so far. 6 out of the first 7 picks were receivers, but we'll see how it plays out on the way back. Have been seeing those quarterbacks dip as well into the 3rd round. So if I could snag another play here at 17 and then keep my fingers crossed that Mahomes falls to 32, that would be an ideal start. But I'm not automatically grabbing Mahomes with the Kelsey team every time anymore. I think Kelsey can stand on his own without Mahomes. Would you like to have the combo? Yeah, sure. But it's such a common combination as well that I'm fine getting a little different and trying to grab somebody else at 17. So after I take Kelsey, we see Bijan Robinson, Garrett Wilson, Austin Eckler. The team at the turn goes Jalen Waddle, CeeDee Lamb, and then Devontae Adams. Interesting there to see Jalen Waddle come off the board over Devontae Adams. Not something I would. I like Waddle, but not something I would probably do. So we're picking at 17 here. I have Kelsey. I love Jonathan Taylor, but I feel like if I don't snag a receiver here, I'm going to miss out on. I think I could get buried by that avalanche. So I'm going to go Devonta Smith. Could have went Mahomes. Could have went Jonathan Taylor. Have a lot of Jonathan Taylor. So see if I can either grab Mahomes in the 3rd round. Maybe there's some miracle that Ramondre slips to me at 32. And if not, we'll play it by ear. See if I can just grab another receiver. Taylor goes at 20. That's phenomenal value for the team. Let's see the board. The team picking out of the 5 slots starts CMC, Jonathan Taylor. So that's obviously, you look at that on paper. If Taylor can bounce back, that's a dangerous combination for sure. So Mahomes goes at 22. Didn't expect him to make it back to 32, but I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. So after I picked Devonta Smith, we see Barkley, Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, Tony Pollard, Patrick Mahomes. And in a vacuum, there's a lot of players I like over Devonta Smith, to be honest. Like I do like Taylor over him, but I feel like the Travis Kelce, Jonathan Taylor start, I'm getting buried at wide receiver. We do see 5 of the last 7 picks are running backs. So maybe not the typical piss boy room. So, that I could look back on that Devonta Smith pick and maybe think it's a mistake. But the way the running backs are going right now, I don't see Ramondre making it to me. So maybe what Taylor was the pick. And I could have maybe just gone Taylor and then grabbed one of the guys in this range: Watson, Hopkins, Cooper, Debo, Calvin Ridley, DK. There goes Ramondre, 27. Didn't expect him to make it to me. Let's take a look at the board. The team out of the 1 slot goes Jefferson, and they get Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs on the turn. We see Jalen Hurts, Ramondre Stevenson, 27, Breece Hall, 28, and DK Metcalf, 29. So see if Josh Allen makes it to me. Unlikely. Yeah, he goes right there, of course. Mark Andrews goes, so I'm on the clock. Ugly range here. Don't love this start so far. I don't often go Ridley, and I don't have a ton of Ridley, but I will go Ridley right here. Trevor Lawrence is always a guy I can grab later. Hoping. Oh, ETN's at the top of the queue. He's at the top of the running back list, so don't see him making it back to me here. But yeah, 41. The 8th pick is an ugly pick as well. Not one of my favorites. I prefer to be in the top 6 because I think Stephon Diggs does still fall into that elite range of wide receivers. So I'd rather be picking either top 6 or have the back-to-back at 12, just so I can you're able to scoop up value, and being able to pick 2 picks in a row is huge in these kind of drafts. So if I had my choice of picks, I would prefer either top 6 or to be picking at the back end. Let's look at the board. I go Ridley, and then we see Debo, Amari Cooper, Lamar Jackson, and then you see a naked Joe Burrow at 36, which is fantastic for me. That's one of the most controversial picks, is the teams that take Joe Burrow without Chase or Higgins. There's not a lot of stacks you can get later. You can grab Mixon, you can grab Tyler Boyd, but do you feel great about those? Are those the guys that, are going to be lighting up the scoreboard in week 17? It's unlikely. So we are 2 picks away. ETN still on the board. I'm hoping he falls to me. I could start to build in a Jaguar stack. That would be ideal. But he is also the top player on the list right now. So looks like this team might time out. If they are timing out, looks like they're gonna go ETN. So they last second pick, they take Judy. Fields goes. So I love that right there. Would I prefer Christian Watson in a vacuum? Give my team a little more balance. Yes, but I am gonna go ETN and see if I can maybe grab Christian Kirk on the next go around. When's my next pick? Not till 56. So Kirk would have to fall a little bit in ADP, but that's okay. I like the start so far. I don't mind ATN as the anchor running back. see Christian Watson come off the board right after. I mean, it was between those two, and maybe I'll regret that later. My team would look a little better on paper with Devonta, Ridley, Watson as my starting three wide receivers, but um, the way the running backs are going off the board as well, it starts to get a little dicey after Najee and Gibbs go off the board. I do like Kenneth Walker for where he's going, but you of course have to worry about Charbonnet. Aaron Jones getting up towards 30. Joe Mixon is a massive question mark with his legal stuff going on. So wanted to at least get one of those running backs in that range and see if possibly Kirk can fall back to us. Unlikely, but we'll see what happens. So after I take ETN, we see Christian Watson, Terry McLaurin, Drake London, TJ Hawkinson, Najee Harris at 46. Team picking out of the 2-hole so far with a Chase, Higgins, Jalen Hurts start. So they choose to pass on Burrow there, hoping maybe he came back around to them in the late fourth, early fifth, but the team earlier at 36 snagged him up. So team out of the one spot goes wide receiver with Mike Williams at 48, DJ Moore at 49. So solid start for them. I don't love Mike Williams in that range. I was taking him a lot earlier in the offseason. But just the injury concerns, the addition of Quentin Johnston, I don't know how much I love Mike Williams to be a week in, week out contributor. So there goes Kirk at 50. Disappointing to say the least, but we're going to have to pivot now. And I've seen Trevor Lawrence slip quite often recently, but this is the kind of draft where I could see him, if I try and wait until the next round, him just getting snatched up ahead of ADP. That's just the kind of draft that it seems like. So Kenneth Walker goes. He was somebody I was looking at. Chris Godwin goes. So I am going to take JSN. Have a lot of each of these guys here. Ayuk, JSN, a little bit of Hollywood, definitely a ton of Mike Evans. So I'm going to go JSN there. Hopefully some late season upside. See Kittle come off the board right after that. Somebody I was considering, but with Kelsey, probably not the brightest idea to go bully tight end. And let's keep our fingers crossed that Lawrence can make it back to me here. If he does, I'll be extremely happy with that. I think the roster will have good balance. I'll have my anchor running back, 3 starting receivers, elite tight end, and elite quarterback in my mind. So, and if you look here, you can see that all of these teams that are picking the last 6 picks all have quarterbacks already. I mean, that doesn't stop some people. Some people still grab that second quarterback early, especially if it correlates. But the team picking next is the only team in that range that didn't have a quarterback already. So we got to be a little worried about him right here. 2 picks away. After I went JSN, we get Kittle at 57, Mixon at 58, Aaron Jones 59 on the turn, J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders, Brandon Ayuk, Marquise Brown. So we're on the clock. Lawrence did make it to us. Crazy because Herbert's still hanging around there. And I love Herbert for this year. Mike Williams also on the board. Do we try and push it? Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm gonna try and push it with Lawrence. I think Mike Evans as a fourth receiver is insane value. Took him at ADP, but just as my fourth overall receiver in a room where it's it's a running back heavy type of room so far is what it looks like. So I'm happy to grab Evans there and keep my fingers crossed that Lawrence comes back to me. Not likely. He's literally the first player on the board, but I've seen him dip significantly into the 70s recently. So if he doesn't get back to me, I have some options that I can go with later on. I could grab Geno Smith to go with JSN. I could also grab Zach Charbonnet to build in a little Seattle stack, and maybe grab a couple Steelers for the Week 17 matchup, Seattle Pittsburgh. So leaving myself open to some options here. I feel better about having Mike Evans as my fourth receiver as opposed to the wraparound here. I'm maybe looking at somebody like a Bateman or a Zay Flowers, something like that. So I think Mike Evans getting up there a little bit in age, but I think could still have an elite season in terms of touchdowns. He's always live for that. And I think the possibility of a trade is there too if the Buccaneers struggle and he wants to maybe go to a contender. I think that's a possibility. So if he can, get moved to a team like the Chiefs or something like that mid-season, that could make all the difference in the world. Similar to what we saw last year with like a Hawkinson or CMC going to San Francisco, it completely changed their fantasy value. So we see Lawrence go there at 71. And I might kick myself later in hindsight. That might be a mistake to take Evans over Lawrence, especially if this year is the year that Evans really starts to decline and Lawrence ends up being like a top 5 quarterback. That won't feel great, but and I should have taken that into consideration as well. That the team here in the 2 slot, they took Christian Kirk 50th overall, so it was kind of a no-brainer for them to snag Lawrence. But you live and you learn. So we are on the clock. Dalvin Cook just went, someone I was considering as my RB2. I go DeAndre Swift as my RB2. A little bit after ADP. Was considering Brandon Cooks there. He goes right after. So sometimes when you see a quick pick made like that right after you think maybe you made a bit of a mistake, but and I would have loved Cooks as my wide receiver 5, but feel pretty good about the start so far. I am going to be targeting Geno Smith. So that's the problem, is that when it doesn't line up with the team you want to get ADP, you do have to start taking some reaches. Like Charbonnet, his ADP is 102. My next pick is 104. So it's not a guarantee that he makes it back to me. So then all of a sudden you're spiraling a little bit in the sense that you only have one Seattle, one stack built in with Geno and JSN. You'd like to get a little bit more of the offense if you're making a bet on the team. So see who's on the board here at 89. Yeah, I probably would have. That was a mistake right there, taking DeAndre Swift. I should have gone with Brandon Cooks, and I could have had my choice here of Rachaad White or Javonte Williams. But I don't love any of the receivers in this range, so I'm still just going to snag Rachaad White. And that also gives me an option to grab like a Baker Mayfield later on with Rachaad White, Mike Evans. You grab a last round Russell Gage, grab Mayfield. All of a sudden, you get a Tampa Bay stack built in. So it's an option. I do get scared of Mayfield too because it's like it wouldn't shock me if Kyle Trask comes in the offseason and wins the job. You don't hear great things about Trask, but you don't hear great things about Mayfield either. He's very inaccurate. I think he's gotten progressively worse. I don't know if that injury had a significant impact on his ability to throw the ball, especially downfield. It seems like his downfield targets have gotten shorter and shorter. So scary proposition to take Baker Mayfield. I think maybe in that scenario, if I was going to do that, I might take like Trask and Mayfield, which I don't love to do. And then you see Charbonnet off the board, 93 overall, which is should have known for this type of room. Running backs have been flying off the board. We see you run right there, 4 straight running backs. So this was a running back piss from instead of a wide receiver one. So I made a few missteps. Certainly, if that's, but in saying that, because running backs are going so heavy, it may not have been such a bad idea to grab Swift and Rashad White just to make sure my backfield is stable, and maybe the some wide receiver value will fall to us a little bit later. Let's see. I think Geno Smith as a 115 overall ADP is great value with the addition of JSN, with the addition of Charbonnet. I think they're going to be a dangerous offense. So I'm fine with him as my QB1. If I grab him as my QB1, it's more likely than not going to be a 3 QB build. So Jameson Williams goes 100 overall. Let's take a look at the board. So after I went Rashad White at 89, we get Zay Flowers 90, Elijah Moore 91, Javonte Williams 92, Charbonnet, Kamara, James Cook, Michael Thomas, Cortland Sutton at the turn, at the 8-9 turn, and Njoku, Elijah Mitchell, Jameson Williams, Dak Prescott, Fryermuth 102, who was somebody I was looking at as well. I'm on the board. This has been a frustrating draft of getting sniped left and right. Don't love the receivers, but I think Evan Ingram, I could still build out a Jacksonville stack. I've got ETN, Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram, done at tight end. So I don't even have to worry or look at tight end anymore. Got Ingram 10 picks after ADP, and although Ridley is there, and I think that eats into Ingram's targets, I do feel good about Ingram 10 picks after ADP. I do feel good about being done at tight end. And let's take a look at the quarterbacks. And you know what? I'm pretty much locked into Geno Smith here as my next pick because, yeah, Richardson's there. Maybe he goes in this next little range here. Kirk Cousins is there, Daniel Jones. But if I don't pick him at 113, he won't be there just based on the way this draft is going. I've been getting sniped left and right. So nothing standing out at wide receiver. I guess I could go Zay Jones, but it's oh, he goes right there. I was gonna say it's a little difficult to build out such a elaborate Jacksonville stack without having Lawrence. I'm fine with the guys I got. I'm gonna snag Geno here. I mean, you might think it's crazy, but he outscored Daniel Jones and Kirk Cousins, who are sitting on the board ahead of him. These guys are all in the same ADP range. This is where he usually goes. So fine going Geno right there. Got our QB1. So far, Geno Smith, ETN, Swift, Rashad White at running back, wide receiver, Devonta Smith, Calvin Ridley, JSN, Mike Evans, tight end, Travis Kelce, Evan Ingram. So I feel great about that. I can snag 3 quarterbacks. I can continue to try to grab some wide receiver value and try and maybe grab a couple of late running backs that have upside. So feel good so far about that. The running backs are really going off the board heavy. It is getting ugly at running back. Let's take a look at the board here. So after I select Geno Smith at Evan Ingram 104, and then Geno Smith 113, we see Brian Robinson, Damian Harris, Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Chigo Kongwu. So you see right there, I took Geno and immediately, boom, Daniel Jones goes off, Kirk Cousins goes off. So Geno Smith was not making it back to me. Geno Smith, let's see. Yeah, so the Metcalf owner was picking before me. That would have been a spot for him to take Geno right there. So feel good about that. This draft has not fallen the way I've wanted it to so far. I've been getting sniped left and right, but you have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to think on the fly. So I don't feel vulnerable in any one position. Quarterback, I guess you could say, is the weakest so far. Feel good about those running backs. Feel good about the receiving core. JSN obviously is a mystery as a rookie. You get two studs on the outside, so how well does he mesh? Is there enough volume to go around? That's a little scary. Mike Evans. I mean, if you're talking about Mike Evans, the most consistent wide receiver in NFL history, maybe in terms of just 1,000-yard season after 1,000-yard season every year of his career. So is this the year that he falls short? Could be, but I think as a wide receiver 4, I'm fine with taking that risk. So we'll see what we like in this range. This pick's going to be a reach, but just the way I see running backs going, I'm going to grab Tank Bigsby here. I think it ties in with the little Jacksonville stack I have going, albeit without Trevor Lawrence, but that's okay. And he gives me handcuff value with ETN as well. I think if ETN goes down or struggle, well, I mean, not struggles. I think Bigsby could either way carve out a little goal line roll, short yardage roll, and not that I see ETN struggling, but if he has any sort of an injury, I think Bigsby steps in and takes on a major workload. They gave him the high draft capital. Third round for a running back is very high draft capital these days. So like that brings balance to the running back room, gives me a safety valve with ETN, and ties in with the other Jacksonville Jaguars I have so far. So we're going to be hammering wide receiver and picking up a couple more quarterbacks. Let's look at the board. So I went Geno 113, Tank Bigsby 128. And we see Jerick McKinnon, Sky Moore, Nico Collins, Dalton Kincaid. I got Kincaid at 144 yesterday in a draft. He fell 20 picks past ADP. Seems like that's starting to correct itself. He was steamed up so high to the beginning of the 10th, end of the 9th, beginning of the 10th. He was in that range for quite a while. And I just don't think that him and Dawson Knox are that far apart. He will have a nice role in the Bills offense as a slot receiver, but I don't think, that him and Knox is not going to be completely phased out because he's running some wide receiver routes. He's still going to be a goal line threat. He's still going to be out there blocking and everything else. So I don't see a significant decrease in Dawson Knox role just because Dalton Kincaid got there. So let's see what we got. Do we have any stacking options at receiver right now? We don't. I'll go Odell. Don't love Odell in a vacuum, but we're getting him 25 picks past ADP. Seems like him and Lamar have a rapport, and I think could be a situation where Lamar tries to force the ball into Beckham, especially early on in the season to get him going. And there's no real wide receiver one in Baltimore. I think they will spread the ball around a bit. The wide receiver one is really Mark Andrews, despite playing tight end. So I think that receiving core, each of them could get a little spike week depending on the matchup. And, is Zay going to work out of the slot? Beckham on the outside. Is Bateman fully healthy? Can he make it back to his pre-injury form? A lot of questions there. So if Bateman is not able to get fully healthy and struggles to open the season, I think you could see a lot of Beckham. So I'm fine with that as my wide receiver 5. Look at the board. So I went Beckham 137. Then we see Jared Goff 138, Jalen Warren, Dalton Schultz, Romeo Dobbs, KJ Osborne, Greg Dulcich. And on the turn, we get Derek Carr, Roshan Johnson, Rondale Moore, Tyquan Thornton 147, he's been getting some serious steam. He was going in the 16th, 17th for most of the offseason. So those camp reports have steamed him up there, but I'm fine not taking him now in the 13th because and I will occasionally, but I have so much of him. I think I have 27% or 25% Taekwon in the, sometimes in the last round, but most of the time 16, 17 round. So feel good about my Taekwon Thornton portfolio. There are a few guys, as I mentioned earlier, like Ramondre, that I am so light on, and I don't want to be. It's just I literally have had no choice unless I wanted to reach on him, 11, 12, 13 picks on ADP, take him in the second round, and I don't feel comfortable doing that. So, all right, we're back on the clock. This is a tough range. So much Alec Pierce. I'll grab Algier. I think Algier is still going to have a role. I don't think he's going to be phased out the way a lot of people do. The guy played extremely well as a rookie, averaged 5 yards a carry. I don't think he just disappears because Bijan Robinson is there. We saw Roshan Johnson carve out a role at Texas despite playing alongside Bijan. They don't want. I think they're going to be careful. He's going to get a heavy workload, but I think they're going to be careful with Bijan Robinson in certain ways. I know that Roshan in college took a lot of the third down pass protection work, and Algier is not much of a pass catcher, but I think he could carve out a role if he's a little bit better of a pass protector than Bijan in certain situations. I think he could take some of that ugly short yardage work where you're trying to grind out a couple yards, and maybe that equates to him being a goal line back, similar to what we saw with Jamal Williams in Detroit. So I think for where he's going, I like him a lot. I love Alec Pierce, but I think I might have close to 30% Alec Pierce. So I'm trying to balance that as well. Have a ton of Singletary. It would have been between Algier and Singletary, and I have a lot of Singletary. So totally okay with that selection. And I could be done at running back here if I want to. Fine going 5. Definitely going to need at least 3 more receivers. So I see myself going with a 3-5-8-2 here. So I'm on the clock and I'm going to grab Kyler. I think he's such a great value here in this range. All of the risk is baked in with a 14th round selection. There are a couple guys I can grab later. One of them is Trey McBride, and I already have two tight ends I like, so I don't know if I'll go that route, but I do like Michael Wilson in the last round. I've been selecting him a lot. I think he could certainly step into take DeAndre Hopkins' spot. I'm not saying he'll put up DeAndre Hopkins' numbers, but there is a giant void there, and someone needs to fill it. So I could take him. Greg Dortch is another option. Don't love the talent of Dortch. I think he kind of was just right place, right time, a lot of targets, but a couple options, and I'd be actually fine with Murray unstacked if it came down to it as a second QB. Just taking a browse around. Let's look at the board again. So we have I took Algier 152, and then on the wrap around, I took Kyler 161. After that, we have Jordan Love and Kenny Pickett. So those again, the range I took Geno Smith. We saw multiple quarterbacks fly off the board after that. And then I take Kyler 161, and then you see the two picks immediately after Jordan Love, Kenny Pickett. So and Stafford. So four of the last five picks quarterback. So that was actually the perfect range there to take Kyler. Don't know if he would have made it back to me at this wraparound at 176. I have seen him fall, but you never know. So, and then we see CJ Stroud go right there at the turn, Mechie, Stroud. So feel great about that Kyler Murray pick. I think I don't see a scenario where he sits out the season like everybody's saying. I think that's so overblown. Um, by the time September rolls around, he'll be 9 months out of the injury. It was supposed to be a pretty clean ACL tear from what I read. So even if he misses a month, you're talking about he's out for 10 months. That's the typical recovery range these days. And even if say they sat him for 8 games, you still have 9 games in the second half of the year of Kyler Murray with a new coach who would love to get him integrated into this new system. He's probably happy to have Cliff Kingsbury out of his ear. The guy just seemed like he was just annoying to everybody. And they had gone back and forth publicly a few times. So maybe he's looking forward to playing for a new coach, a breath of fresh air. So absolutely love that selection. So I'm on the clock. We need receivers. And I've been taking them a lot. I have almost 40% of them, but I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. I'm going to go Hunter Renfrow as my wide receiver 6. I think we saw his ceiling. Now, does he ever approach that again with Devontae Adams on the team? I don't think so. But his ceiling was over 200 points. He was a wide receiver 2 years ago. And I don't think you do that by accident. Even if you have a tremendous role, there's some guys who are fed targets and do nothing with them. They can't get open. They drop balls. Renfro's not that guy. We saw it in college. He's extremely talented. He's smart. He knows body placement. He knows how to get open in short areas. So I absolutely love him in the 15th round. As my wide receiver 6, I think he brings me a floor guy. And maybe if him and Jimmy G can click, and we know how slot receivers, how valuable they are in the Josh McDaniels offense, I like Renfrow a lot in this range. I had a ton of them last year in the 8th or 9th round. So that was a mistake. But this to me feels like even if he doesn't live up to the expectations, I'm fine with taking him there. The risk is built in the same way it is for Kyler. So Tajay Spears is somebody I have 0% Tajay Spears. And Jerome Ford's another guy I have 0% of. And I get scared having 0% of some people. It just doesn't feel right. It's that could be the one thing that Kyler goes down. I mean, sorry, Kyler's on the brain. Derrick Henry goes down, and all of a sudden this guy's like an RB1. So let's see. go Foreman after ADP. Looking most likely at a 2.682. I don't know if I need to grab that third quarterback. If Kyler Murray is a setback, then it is a little scary because you're stuck with only Geno for the 17 weeks. So if he gets banged up or anything, then you're literally playing with no quarterback. So that is scary. I think Foreman pretty much 20 picks after ADP is a fine selection there. It's a muddled backfield. It's definitely messy, but I think either way, I'm gonna go Wilson. Ties in with Kyler. And I would love if I could get some camp reports on Mayfield. I did see one clip where he overthrew somebody by like 20 yards. He literally just hummed the ball over their head. Was nowhere close to the receiver. So I have zero faith in Mayfield. But if you look at the pieces on paper, I mean, they have weapons. Shad White is dangerous. Godwin's dangerous. Mike Evans is still in that elite tier. I mean, you saw it week 17 last year, like 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's still capable of that. So, no, did Michael Wilson go? Oh, I didn't even see that. That is just so annoying. So I'm going to pivot here to Dortch. Don't love it. This is one of those drafts where it's like sometimes it just goes your way and everything falls to you and you're able to build in these nice late stacks, but you get drafts like this where you are getting sniped left and right and you leave the draft not feeling great about your team because of it. And it's just this terrible idea to go 3 tight ends with when you have Travis Kelce. So maybe taking that Ingram pick was a mistake. Because I would love to just grab Trey McBride here. He's always there at the end. Well, I mean, I'm 4 picks away, so me saying that he'll probably get sniped. But I don't think I should take him anyways. I don't think it's a smart idea for this team. I think Darius Slayton is getting disrespected a bit. I don't think he should be undrafted. So I'll go Slayton as my wide receiver 8. So we get a 2.682. If I had any sort of faith that Baker Mayfield could be a competent quarterback, I would take him. But the numbers are just ugly. He's not even putting up 200 points in the seasons he's been starting. And we're just going to keep our fingers crossed. Hope there's some good reports on Kyler. And he does have the rushing upside. So having him pretty much, I mean, you got Dortch there, but I don't have much faith in him. So basically, unstack Kyler Murray. With the rushing upside, I'm okay with it. We're able to build in some correlation with JSN, Geno Smith. That's our only real stack. So I don't love this team. I'm gonna be completely honest. I sometimes you get through the draft and it's just ugly. You don't like what you put on paper. But we'll go do a quick recap. Actually, let's look at the board. Let's see the last few picks here. How these last couple rounds shook out. So I went Foreman 185. See Trey Lance there going 188. He's a guy that as a third quarterback is definitely worth taking a flyer on a dot throw at this, the 16th round. He's not looking like he has a chance to start, but who knows? Maybe he gets traded. Maybe Purdy's not ready to start the season. He gets in there and shines for a couple weeks. So like that pick. The Michael Wilson pick hurt. I've been getting him consistently in the 18th round, my last pick. So I'm happy with my exposure to him, but for this build, I would have loved to grab him there with Murray, but that's okay. Grab Greg Dortch instead for a little correlation, and Darius Slayton in the 18th round, I think is good value. Another year under Dayball, another year playing with Daniel Jones. I think they have a good connection. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. Let me do a quick breakdown. Quarterback, Geno Smith, Kyler Murray. This is a 2-6-8-2. So Geno Smith, Kyler Murray at quarterback, Travis Etienne, DeAndre Swift, Rashad White, Tank Bigsby, Tyler Algier, Deonta Foreman at running back. Wide receiver, Devonta Smith, Calvin Ridley, JSN, Mike Evans, Odell Beckham, Hunter Renfrow, Greg Dortch, Darius Slayton, Travis Kelce, Evan Ingram at tight end. So looking back early in the draft, maybe the Devonta Smith pick was a mistake. Maybe going Jonathan Taylor there, have a JT, Travis Kelce start, and then it's tough to tell that, running backs are going to go that heavy off the board. After I took Devonta, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 running backs went before my next pick. So it's tough to know when something like that's going to happen. You normally don't get buried by the running back avalanche. It's usually the wide receivers, but that's okay. Not my favorite team, but you never know. Like sometimes it doesn't look great on paper, and once they get on the field, you see a guy like JSN. All of a sudden, he's a top 15 receiver, and Calvin Ridley coming back from suspension comes out of the gate flying, and maybe both of those guys are top 20 receivers, and you like your team a little better than you did on paper. So that's gonna wrap up today's drafts. I really appreciate all you guys tuning in. Just getting started with this channel, but hopefully as it grows, I'll get more and more comfortable with this. I'll get a little better. And if you have any feedback, let me know. I would really appreciate anyone who could like and subscribe and leave a comment and let me know what you think. Thank you guys so much. DJ Nation, out.